So this is Baruch here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and I'm really excited about the possibilities of learning what's going on in the Panemius of the Kriat Shemah. I think that everybody should know that the reason why we want to learn Kabbalah, and the reason why Kabbalists do what they do, because of their dedication to the concept that prayer works. It is our main tool. And so therefore, the more you know about what's going on in the particular prayers that you're doing, obviously it seems to be that it's very, very fulfilling. So in fact, for me, that's what it is. So we're over here on page, this is page Memvav in the Tivuk Avanos. We've been learning the second drush Sheni, Be'inyan Shinui Hefresh, and now he's going to explain the differences, Sheyesh Ba'arba Bechinas Kriat Shemah, the four different times that we say Kriat Shemah, and he says each one is of a different bechina. Now it took me a while to really be able to appreciate what he was saying, because he says that when you say the Kriat Shemah, you're doing two things. You're bringing in mochin to katnas, preceded, that is the mochin katnas come first, followed by mochin the godless when you say the word Achad. So all of this, every single time you say Kriat Shemah, that is, in fact, what happens. That you're bringing in, actually, not all of the mochin the godless, but the zat of the mochin the godless, and the preparation, the bottom part, the part that could reach us originally, of the lowest, is quickly, that's the part. This comes from Bina. That is the zat of Bina coming into us, also called Tavuna. That this particular case, let's say, call it Tavuna. So also called Ima. So Ima is coming into us when we're saying the Kriat Shemah. First, the mochin the katnas, and then the mochin the godless. We also get shefa from different places. Now, the rule is like this, and this is what I understood, and excuse me because I'm behind as I'm reading this, because there's a lot for me to know. So the Indian is that by saying the Kriat Shemah, you produce a yichud and abba ve'ima. Now the question is, in the four different types of Kriat Shemah, is the origin of the shefa that comes into ima and goes to zeranpin as a result of the yichud of abba ve'ima. That produces that shefa. The shefa, as a result, goes up to the Roma Ma'alos and comes back down. And here's what he says. He says that there are stations along the way in which is lodged this shefa from the Roma Ma'alos. The first and the most high is the Chitzonius of Atik. The second is the Panemios of Eric Anpin. The third one is the Chitzonius of Eric Anpin. And the fourth one is the Chitzonius of Abba Ve'ima. I think I got that right, but I'm not sure. So exactly how this makes sense, I don't really know, because I don't really understand it, because what's my problem? My problem is that it's all coming from Roma Ma'alos. It's not coming from Abba Ve'ima. It's not coming from the Chitzonius of Eric Anpin or the Panemios or the Chitzonius of Atek. It's not coming from there. It's coming from Roma Ma'alos, from the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, through all the different stages that it comes. So what difference does it make if we say that it was lodged at some place or it wasn't lodged at some place? How does that help me? And that's what I'm looking for. So we're down here, and it says like this: Be'inyan hashinuya v'hafroshim sheyesh ba'arba pamim she'ana oimrim Kriat Shemah b'chol yom. So what's the differences? First, the first one is the karbanos oimrim b'pasuk rishon the Shema. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso L'Olam Bo'ed Bilvad. Now this is what the Rav says, and this is what the Rashash has in his siddur. This is that when you see, if you look in a Ashkenaz siddur, either Sfard, Nusach Sfard, Nusach Ashkenaz, you'll see that they have a little bit more. They have another paragraph, or they have more to it. But here the Rav says that all you need is the first one. The first one supplies everything. But on the other three times that we say the Kriat Shemah, we don't just say the first line plus Baruch Shem Kavod. We say the whole three parshios of the Kriat Shemah. Even before we go to bed, we say the entire Kriat Shemah. The Gemosha Kasev Rav the Rav is going to talk about this later on, the Zel Lashona, and this is what he says. The first Chassidim, Lo Choyitz Rishon Rak Lomer Pasuk Harishon Shema Yisroel, they only really needed to say the first pasuk. Isn't that interesting? which is Shema Yisrael. Kanizka b'Gemara. This is back to the Gemara. He says over there in Brachos, this little slight reference down here, Brach Daf Hey Amad Aleph. So he says that's over there. So he says Kanizka b'Gemara. The Sagi L'chu B'Chad B'Sukkah Derachmi. So this is because of B'Sukkah Derachmi means the Shema itself. Aval Ata Anachnu Doros Achroni, but now with latter generations. Halavai Shenifrad called Pratich HaKavonah B'Chayichud. Would it be possible that we should come along and be able to specify all the details of the Kavonas, the Yichud that takes place in all the different parts? Kadei Shenuchol Ligron Zivuk Elyon Shall Achratzos Lila, so that we can make bring all of this to an upper Yichud after Chatzos. They the Chadesh as the Neshamas, the Yeshanos, in order to be able to renew all the Neshamas, the old Neshamas. Behinda b'techida Ana Omrim called Seder HaKriat Shemah, but what it is that we say the entire Seder, the Kriat Shemah, etc. Ad Kan. So I'm not sure how we got into transitioned over to the Kriat Shemah Lalamita, but we did. So going on. Roy Mikan Shacharav Sober. So we see from that statement the Rav holds Shekahayom, like nowadays. Kulana Chayav Nekros Kol Shlosha Parshas B'Kriyat Shema Shalamita. We have to say the entire Parsha Shema, Kriyat Shema Olamita. I guess what he meant to say is that you might have thought that the Kriyat Shema Olamita, that all you need to say the Shema, and he said, well, Halavai, that it should be that we should be able to have the Kavanas to be able to do that, but we don't. So therefore, it gets 3 Parshios also. So he said, V'chulu Kaman Drosh Vav. This is going to be on Drosh Vav. If we, God willing, we'll get over there. But the Chidat Tzarek should take well Drosh Vav Haniska the Kaman. So now he says that we really need to read Drosh Vav Haniska the Kaman o Misham Tavin Haiti. So if we get over there, we're going to be able to understand it well. The Kan Kitzer Rabbeinu. But here, Rabbeinu Kodesh is going to be very short on this. Lifnei Amiris Kriat Shema. So what was that? V'hinei Sham Yizbar Ki Terem Shen Ema Kriat Shema the Yotzer. So it says like this: before we say the Kriat Shema the Yotzer, Lifnei Kriat Shema the Yotzer. He said the Tiv repeats it. So I have to read this a little bit. I don't see the connection. Gvar Choye Bezecha B'Kol HaMochin HaKatnas. So all of the Mochin HaKatnas come into Zer Anpin, he says. But before we start to say the Kriat Shema. That's what it says. So he says, Chutz min hamakiv mitzad Abba. Now this is the Kriyat Shema of Yosher, which is the Kriyat Shema which we call the morning Kriyat Shema, usually of Shachris. So he said, Bezer Anpin, Hoya kol hatzalim dekatnas mitzad ima b'shleimus. Now what's hatzalim dekatnas? It means the mochin penimim, and the 2 mochin that come from are called, are oros, that we call the oros penimim, the mochin penimim, along with the tzadi and the lama tzalim, which are the makifim. The katnas b'tzad ima b'shleima. So before we say the Kriat Shema in the morning, Ima already has within her all of her mochin of katnas. Shehim penimi umakif, which are the penimi umakif. What about Abba? Ma'abba choyelo rak chetzi the katnas levad. So with Abba though, he only had, boy, did I say that wrong? The tzadi dekatnas means that part of the katnas which is called the penimius. Shuhu hapenimi levad, which is only the inside part, but the makif is missing. Aval halamad mem shuha makif, the abba lo choyelo v'daim, he still doesn't have it. Now you're at the Kriat Shema in the morning, and what he just said was that you have all the mochin the katnas of Ima. You have the makifim and the penimi. That's called, in other places, it's called the tzalim. Tzadi Tzalim refers to the penimi, the mochin that go inside of Zer Anpin. Lama Tzalim, this refers to the smaller light, but it's too big to be able to go into Zer Anpin, so the light is very bright. And the Mem Tzalim is way, way out there, corresponding to the concept of Yechida. If you're familiar with Chayin Yechida, that's the Lam, that's your good old Lam and Mem. So he says, when we say the word Yisroel, the Kriat Shema, the Yotzer, the Shachris, this is what we were saying. The Mekifim on the side of Abba, of Katnas, come in at that time when we're saying the Kriat Shema. Benimshir b'tevis Yisroel, and this is the key that we have to remember. Now you're reading the Kriat Shemah, you're saying the Kriat Shemah, and the second word is the word Yisroel. What happens when you say that word, the Kriat Shemah, the Yotzer, Yesh kavar l'zer anpin kol the mochin the katnas the gamri. At that point, he has all of the mochin the katnas, penimi and makif, hein the abba v'hein the ima. Remember this, because it comes in at that time. And if you don't remember it, okay, do the best you can. Nechnasim, so they come in. Rak hashisha kitzvos the mochin the godless the ima levad. But what comes in here, when you come to godless and you say this, you do get godless. But all you get here are the 6 kitzvos of the mochin the godless the ima levad, not from Abba, just from Ima. That is not from Chochma is Abba. Ima is Bina. So Bina, the female attribute, which is the giver to us of life, she brings in at the time that you say the word Echad, you bring at the time of the 6 kitzvos, or lower 6 kitzvos of godless. Now, why does it say godless? Well, Ima is beyond the dimension of Zer Anpin. So anything that comes into Zer Anpin from that dimension has the ability to be able to build him up, if we're talking about the mochin, the godless. So he then, the B'tevis Yisroel, Nigmer Kabali Hikonas Kol Hamochin the Katas the Gamri. So you say Shema Yisroel, you said that word. Now you say that in the Kriat Shemah, he calls it the Kriat Shemah, the Yotzer, and I guess he does that. He has, in the morning you have the Kriat Shemah, the Karbanos, which he said is only one line. And then after that you have the Kriat Shemah, the godless, after that you have the word Echad. Let me just go back again, say it again. It's something I mixed it up. In the Kriat Shemah, when you say the word Yisroel, you bring in at Shachris time, that is in the Yotzer, he calls it Yotzer, or Baruch Hu, I call it Baruch Hu, he calls it, but all the Kabbalists call it Yotzer. At Yotzer, you're bringing in the word Yisroel, all of the mochin, of continence, that is the makifim and the benimim, both from Abba and from Ima, they're already in. What are you missing? You're missing godless. When you get to Echad, you're going to get some godless. So he says, now before you say the word Echad, then he has all the mochin the katris inside of it. I mean, he really explains this much better than I do. I'm just trying my best. So when you say the word Echad, that's when you make a yichud. The word Echad, right, is oneness, is a concept of bringing Abba ve'ima together. In order to be able to extend down the mochin of godless to Zer Anpin of the Noch. So therefore they bring Abba ve'ima from that yichud, are able to bring out mochin the godless the Zav and Nok min chitzonius atek, from a very, very high place. Now remember, all of them, this was my question at the beginning, all of them come from the Rama Ma'alos, but at the same time there are stations along the road down to Zachar V'Nuk, and one of them, the most high one, would be the Chitzonius of Atik. So he goes and he says, that we have nowadays, at this moment. And the word Echad, Niknas Raka Shisha Kitzvos, the godless, they only come in the 6 kitzvos, that is the lower kitzvos of God, because it's the Zat of Abba, it's really of Ima. Okay, so let me read again. You say the word Echad, Niknas Raka Shisha Kitzvos, the godless. So since you already have all of the mochin the katnas, so therefore at this point the power of Zer Anpin is strong. The godless, because since he has all of the mochin the katnas, therefore he can accept all of these mochin the godless. Even the godless that is stationed and positioned from the chitzonius of Atik. Which is not the case when you have to they don't have to come back into Bechad. Now, let me see. I didn't really understand what he said, so let me try again. So he had said that v'lechein. Let's try v'lechein. V'kochu shalazer anpin chazak. Chazak means strong, right? Sheyachol lekabel mochin the gadlus. Afila min achatzonius atik. So he's strong enough. I guess what he's saying is that what you have here, and I'm thinking that what he's saying is like this. What you have here is a light from atik that goes directly into Zocher v'Nuk, because directly into Abba v'Ima, and then ultimately into Zocher v'Nuk. So this is a very powerful light. So he says they're coming from the Chitzonius of Atik, and then the next light is going to come from the Penimius of Erech Anpin, which surrounds Atik, which in other words is lesser light, but it's still very powerful. So we're going to start getting into that. Masha ein kein kashetzarek od likonis be'echad. So, chelik mechamochin the katnis in b'shisha kitzvos the mochin the godless. So he says that this is the case. That you don't need to bring in, when you say the word echad, any of the katnis at all, because it's already there. So therefore, unadulterated, not surrounded with anything else, is coming the mochin the godless from him. Oz einu yochel l'kabel b'yachad mochin the gavoch ge'elu. So again, I didn't understand this well, Bill. I thought I did. Masha ein kein kashetzarek od likonis be'echad, that they have to come in chelik mechamochin the katnis in b'shisha kitzvos the mochin the gadlus. Oz einim yecholim, because if that's the case, if you still have to bring in, that's what he's saying, if you still have to bring in the katnis, oz einu yochel l'kabel b'yachad mochin gavoch ge'elu, so you couldn't take the katnis and the godlus at the same time. So since you don't need any more katnas, so therefore there's power inside of Zer Anpin, he's set up to be able to receive it. Now look at it in this way. You are the person who's mispalo, and you're at this time, and you have needs. You need to understand, to get close to God, to get God's ear. You need to be able to see what's going on in there. How are you going to do this? Well, he says the process is this. First, you bring in the mochin the katnas. When all of the mochin the katnas are, those are all of the desires and the needs and the worries of a person. They're ready for an answer, but they're only ready when they're all there. So now they're all there at the Kriat Shemah of Yotzer. Of Eitz Chaim B'var Rab Baruch, and now over there in the Eitz Chaim, the Rab gets into this. Eich kol ola b'kol parts of b'kol sphera, how it is that every world, every system of light, which is called a partzuf, b'kol sphera, and every part of the partzuf, which are spheros. Yesh lechem shnei bechinos. Each one of them, that's another idea, have two different aspects. V'heim penimius, v'chitzonius. So all of those things. Let's see what they said again. He says, kol oilam has a chitzonius and a penimius. Every partzuf, same thing. V'kol sphera, same thing. Always think about that. Always understand this is part of the Kabbalah. There's an inside and an outside to everything. Yesh lechem shnei bechinos. V'heim penimius, v'chitzonius. B'sham Mevor, over there in Rav, Kama Perushim, many different Perushim, over in the Eitz Chaim, B'kama Chasvarim, different opinions, B'kama Chufanim, different ways of looking at it, Man Nikra Penimius. What exactly is Penimius? Man Nikra Hitzonius, and what's Hitzonius? Penimius Hukul Medrega Yotzer Chashuva B'Hitzonius. So if you have the inside and you have the outside, and he has a principle there, as the olamos move up, as the prayers move up, the chitzonius stays where it is, but the penimius can move up, and it's very chashuv. V'hu kudugmas haneshama shu penimi de gabi aguf, and this is similar to the concept of the neshama. The neshama is inside of the body, and the body is on the outside. That is penimius chitzonius shu hachitzoni. Now let's see if we finished. I think we got to that place, and so this is going to be the shir for today. This is Baruch Fleischman at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel. I find this very exciting for me to be able to develop these kavanos.